Hello, welcome to the third update for my Polish 1st Armored Division army build for bolt action. Made a lot of progress paint-wise, but next time I do a bunch of guys like this, I'm going to kind of change the order of operation a bit. I started using my typical miniatures pattern. The first thing I do is I paint the lowest level of the model first, which would be in skin. So I did all the flesh on all the parts, and then worked over that, which would of course be the uniform. Problem is I really should have just airbrushed everything with the uniform color and then gone on to the flat. So that's what I'm going to do with the next batch of these. A little lesson learned there. But I did go ahead and brush paint all the uniform on. So we've got done so far is all the flesh tones, skin, basically hands and face. The entire uniform is English uniform for all the units, or all the models. Now all the boots are painted black, except for the two officers. Their boots are a flat brown is the color by Vallejo. Then aside from that, I started with these four. I actually started working on the khaki for the webbing. So overall, pretty good effect. And I'll show you some other things too, but let's use this dude here. Once I started getting the khaki on, it really started to come to life. I also did the hairs. Now the hairs I did different colors. I basically used a flat brown, no, not flat brown, a brown beige, and I forget what I used on his hair. Also his beret was black. That was simple to do. But painted all the webbing, the holster, everything that was canvas, part of the webbing kit. Okay, there we go. He really is starting to come alive. So can't wait to actually go ahead and put the washes on them. But so these four have the webbing done over here. Other than that, it's just the base coats. Now the other thing I did is I went ahead and painted the helmets themselves. Now for all of them, I painted the underside of the rim, all of it reflective green on all 30 of the models. The base coat on all of the 10th Dragoons helmets, whether they're bare or whether they've got this netting, you can see that netting. There it is. All of them, that's reflective green from Vallejo. I didn't touch the strap yet. And on the ones with the Hessian strips, I painted the entire helmet a Russian uniform, green. Okay. So you can actually see the difference when you lay the two helms side by side. Okay. Right. Now, the one thing I did not do is I purposely was not careful with how I covered the Hessian, because the Hessian strips are going to be a little bit of dark sand as well as the Russian olive or Russian uniform, and so having some light tan show through just a little bit here and there kind of adds to the depth, because they're going to be multicolored. In all cases, I also did the face, the eyes, eyebrows. Didn't do the eyes themselves, and the hair in back. That took a lot longer than I expected, to be honest. Took a few breaks. It's a good thing that I had the Dreadfire Portal project to work on, because I was able to let these dry as I went to work with that, and then come back to this as that was drying. The one thing I tried to work on some more as well was the Lee Enfield. I'm trying to find the right brown, and this is actually coming in a little too dark. It looks like on the LCD part of the camera here, but this is a little bit lighter than it should be. So I used the beige brown for this from Vallejo, but I'm going to end up using flat brown, which is much darker, more like the boots here. They should be much darker because they're a walnut stock, which is stained dark. So that's the next step will be going through all the weapon systems now. So, alright, so it's progress is pretty good. Ideally, if I was able to if I went ahead and slapped paint on the weapons, mounted them through the heads on here, I'd have 2 ready platoons ready to go. But I'm going to take a different approach with these. Now, if you remember me saying before, my background is more in the scale modeling area, and so the techniques used in there there's some specific techniques you use and a certain approach you take painting scale models compared to the normal gaming miniatures we have. You don't use a lot of glazing and feather. Well, feathering you could use, but not a lot of just the glazing and layering and those things, edge highlighting and stuff. Those aren't done in scale model because you're using more of a realistic approach and you're not trying to accentuate anything. The one thing you might do is washes. Now on larger scale models, especially like 32nd scale or whatever, you might go to that level of detail to get a much more realistic finish, but again, those are more for display pieces. But for dioramas and such like that, you're trying to mimic reality, and the reality is when you see men at a distance like this, a lot of the details get kind of blurred and obscured. Matter of fact, the gradient difference between the khaki webbing and the uniform, you'll see a difference, but they won't jump out at you, which is the whole point. Because if you're trying to camouflage, you don't want to be apparent and jumping out and your eye catching when your opponent's looking at you, right? So I'm trying to take kind of a mid-range approach to painting these. So I'm going to start with a scale model approach, which is essentially base coating everything the colors are supposed to be, but I will add a wash to highlight, accentuate the creases just to get some definition. So it makes you feel like you're closer to the model when you're looking at it than you really are. I'm not going to actually do any highlightings or OSL or anything like that. What I will do though is go through what I will call a highlighting, and that will be to on the upper surfaces where the light would normally be more reflective and more intense. I will go over and give that area a kind of another base coat layer, maybe a little bit lighter, not to significantly highlight it, but just to kind of enhance the gradation slightly between the different segments of the uniform, for example. That's mostly where it's going to be, the uniform. The tops of the boots, the top of the beret. I will go over and highlight the skin so it doesn't look like a bunch of flesh blobs on the end of the brown stump. So we'll try to get a little bit more definition in there if the wash itself doesn't pull out the highlights. Because again, I'm not trying to make these things stand out and pop at you when you're on the table. I'm trying to make it look like a more realistic scene, sort of like you're a witness. So the techniques are slightly different. I won't be using a lot of them. These will not look like GW models or Infinity models. These are going to look more like scale dioramas for World War II. Okay, so that's the approach I'm kind of taking. We'll see how that works. It's really an experiment because I am trying to bridge the gap between scale modeling and tabletop miniatures. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. All right, so that's where I'm at today. Looks like probably 2 more weeks because the webbing is taking a lot of time. It took me quite a while to get those 4 guys done with the webbing, just to make sure I don't get the paint on everything else. So 2 weeks more, I'll have the webbing done, I'll have the guns done, I'll have the helmets done, everything washed. I will probably then go ahead and mount everything, and after that go through and do what I'm calling highlighting, but it's not really the traditional highlights. At that point I should be able to put these on the battlefield, and then at that point it's really about basing. So there's at least 2 weeks left, maybe as many as 4, before these are completely done, ready for their first battle. Alright, so thanks for sticking with me on this. Hope to see you in the next video. Share, like, and subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell icon if you want to be notified when next time I put up a video. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.